What's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new opposition preview episode. I'm joined by Ben here from the All for United channel to look ahead to our game against United on the weekend. Ben, thank you for joining me. It's been a weird preseason for you guys because for you guys that's not aware, this is United's first game of the season. They didn't play on a weekend, so this will be their first game. And it was a weird preseason in terms of how you had issues with Greenwood, you had issues with Maguire, of course, the signings. What's the mood like amongst the fans going into this game in your first game of the season?
Do you know what? It feels like it was just yesterday that we were doing a show on our channel, and we were talking about the fact that now top four is sealed. Should we just scrap off the Europa League so that we get a proper respite and we, when we get back to the start of the season, whenever that's going to be, we're not rushing back into the season. And it sort of feels like now this is what happens when you rush back into a season. And I think, yes, United have been given an extra week, but don't think that United have been given an extra week's rest. That's not right at all. United have been back in training with their full squad, I think, from yesterday. So, and when you call that a full squad, I mean, I still think some people in the gym and some people are actually on a training pitch. We don't know what sort of state any of the guys who are on the international break just a week or so ago are in. Ollie said that he's not sure about Paul Pogba. Obviously, he tested positive for coronavirus during the international breaks. He didn't play for France. And Ollie said the other day that he doesn't think that he's going to be 100% fit for the game against Palace. So it just depends whether we're happy. And as a United fan, I'd say, yes, I am happy playing with an 80% fit Paul Pogba in that midfield. Of course I am. That's by far a better player than the majority of midfielders out there. And like you say, in terms of, getting a reaction from players, Mason Greenwood didn't paint himself in the best light whilst on international duty. But let's celebrate one thing. He was called up for international duty. He was called up to play for England, which was massively deserved. So it's just a shame how that went. And then, like you say, Harry Maguire, who's, again, still innocent till proven guilty, but he had to deal with coming out the England squad. And again, a very disruptive, so to speak, you can't really call it a summer, can you? But a very disruptive few weeks after the end of the season, which obviously ended with a bit of misery because we should have got through to that Europa League final, and I think we would have had a really, really good chance. So, yeah, I mean, in some ways, finishing third last season was sort of good for United in terms of where we're at. But the way it ended wasn't great with how we went out in the Europa League and played poorly in the game against Copenhagen as well before Seville. And then, like you say, with the disruptions, I can't believe it's the start of the season in a couple of days. It's mental. It doesn't feel right at all. It doesn't feel like the lads have had enough time to prepare. And we did play Saturday. We played a very, very weak team against an Aston Villa side and lost 1-0. But it was a game that was like a training game that we absolutely dominated. And I don't even still know how we lost 1-0 in that game, but we just didn't take our chances with the players that were on the pitch. So, very odd, mate. Very, very odd start for us and a very weird summer.
It's not only you, it's us as well. We had 3 preseason friendly games and it all happened so quickly against local rivals, Millwall, Charlton. But in the summer, another thing that happens is transfers. Palace have been decent so far. I've been massively surprised, I'll be honest with you. I think this is our best window since we got promoted to the Premier League. With you guys, I see it always on Twitter. There's Jadon Sancho. Is he coming? Is he going? Of course, you have one confirmed signing, Van der Beek. He joined you guys recently as well. How would you sum up your transfer window so far? And do you expect Sancho to come to United?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're talking about him off the show, by the way. Eze, baller. He looks like a really, really good player. So I think you've got a really good player there. And I think what's even more exciting for a Palace fan is you're going to have him potentially now looking at the window and looking at the market, him playing with Zaha all next season, which I think is going to be phenomenal. And I think that's going to be a good link up and one that Premier League teams have to watch and be wary of. And who knows, if he can create a partnership with Zaha and Zaha starts to really, really, really enjoy playing football with him, then that could be the difference between Wilfred Zaha spending another 2-3 years at Palace to him spending another 1. So I think, that's quite good, and it's only going to help Palace with, and you as fans with your ambitions. Will Sancho join United? Oh, crikey. Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, from the we've been doing a lot of transfer shows and we've spoken to a load of journalists, and obviously there's this whole tier 1, tier 2 thing, tier 3 thing. But I think when it comes to transfers like this, I think Dortmund and United have briefed so much that everything's believable. And I think the problem we've got now is that if we don't sign Jadon Sancho, we've got egg on our face. If we do sign Jadon Sancho, we've made the best signing of the summer by a country mile. And I think all Premier League clubs are going to be looking at United going, well, they turned it around last season. They've just brought in Jadon Sancho. You know, we've got to start, you know, being wary of going to Old Trafford again. We've got to start playing a bit more defensively when we play against them, because I think that's a big thing that United have lost in recent years. It's that fear factor. I think we started to get it back over the last season. I think you added Jadon Sancho to that. You added Van der Beek to that, who I think is an immense signing for the fee. He's come up through that Ajax academy, which I think we all love, and you know, as football fans, we can all appreciate and you know, and adore as well from what they do over there. And he's brilliant last season, not just in the Dutch league, but also in the Champions League. Fantastic little player. I think United are starting to build a really, really good squad of players, and I think we've really turned it around in the transfer windows. But yeah, I don't think it's a case of will we get Jadon Sancho now? I think we have to get Jadon Sancho now, and I think if we don't, I'll just have no words, because I just think that for the fans and also for the club to just have a little bit of respect back there from a board level, it's going to cause uproar if they don't, and they're sort of lucky that fans aren't in the stadiums right now if that signing doesn't come off, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, because you've always had this issue with the board. You can see it on social media. You're not happy with the board. I think I saw a stat out there suggesting that United had minus 90 net spending, something like that. They haven't really spent.
The Glazers just take. And I think the problem is as well with a board is it's very much a board that if you want a business that commercially or you want a group of people who commercially make your business tick, and they're only worried about the green zones, they're only worried about making sure that they're bringing in that revenue, then Edward was absolutely fantastic, and the guy deserves a statue. The stuff that he gets sponsorship for is freaking ridiculous. Like, fair play to him. But when it comes to actually having footballing people at the club, and when it comes to actually having some sort of footballing structure that sits in not just with the club and the players who are currently there, but the fans as well, who have to believe in the philosophy and believe in the direction that United are going in. United have no footballing people in the club at all. I think it speaks volumes that the best business we've done this summer has been at academy level. We have recruited some incredible academy players and some young lads as well, and done some good business too with youngsters potentially going out on loan. You know, Chongi's gone out to the German league. And also, you know, the younger teams are sort of sort themselves out there as well. And we've got a nice little structure in place. There's loads of footballing people there. It's led by Nicky Butt. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now has a big say as well when it comes to our younger lads. He's been talking a lot about Mengi, Garner, and, you know, there's a lot of promise coming through the ranks today. He's pushed Greenwood up through this season. So I think when footballing people are involved, you can see the excitement and you see the excitement from fans. But unfortunately, at board level, when it comes to bringing in players, there's just not that. And that's why you see the financial reports like you have done. And I think that's made other football fans realise what an awful situation United are actually in, despite having all this money, as fans think.
Yeah, you mentioned Greenwood, and honestly, of course, I don't watch United week in, week out, but from the games I've seen him, he looks like an absolute baller. Yeah, he's only 18 years old, and the fact that he's only 18 and he's that good, I think he's going to be a real threat next season if he lives up to the hype, and hopefully if he plays continuously. Do you think that he plays regular next season? And also for the Palace game, is there any other players that we should potentially watch out for that could be a real threat?
I think Rashford's got a point to prove. I think Rashford has a massive point to prove. And I think that's scary if you're a right back at a football club and you've got Marcus Rashford coming towards you. Obviously, it's easy for me to say Bruno Fernandes as well. I think I actually went back and watched the game at the start of last season when we played you and you came to Old Trafford and won. And Rashford missed a penalty. I don't know if you remember, Rashford missed a penalty. I think we weren't sponsoring VAR then, because I also think Anthony Martial should have had a penalty before Scott McTominay ran over in the box, and then Rashford missed that penalty, of course. But yeah, also wasn't there another foul on Martial as well? It was nearly a red card. I can't remember. But anyway,
I can't remember. But yeah. We won. But you're talking about the game that we won.
Yeah, that you won 2-1. And also, was it Ayew who scored his first goal of the season in that game as well? And I think it was Schlupp won a header against Lindelof, I think. And then Ayew was just clean through on goal. It was literally as easy as that. It was one long ball. It was Hodgson ball. It was literally the keeper up to Schlupp, who doesn't win headers every game. You know, it's like the person you'd least expect to win a header up against a centre-back, and he won it, and I was clean through on goal, which I think sort of sums up a little bit the United frailties in terms of, you know, shielding the defence at that point. And we weren't on a good run then anyway or that was where the bad run started, I think, from that Palace game. But I was watching it back, and I watched that game, and I watched the game obviously during lockdown. And although a lot has changed in terms of, you know, form, and we're getting towards the end of the season, of course, during lockdown, you could just see what difference having Bruno Fernandes in that team makes. He just made us tick over. And I think at times against you guys, we looked phenomenal, I think, towards the end of the season. And that was actually one of the games that I sat there and watched, and I wasn't worried whatsoever from the first minute to the last minute about losing the game at all. And that's no reflection on Palace. That was just in terms of the form United were in. And as soon as we started playing, you could just see. I think as long as Martial, Rashford and Greenwood are running at that Palace defence, we're going to cause you problems. Palace, your defenders for as long as I can remember, you know, you haven't got particularly pacey defenders, but they like to stand up against the strikers. And I think the problem is you stand up against Anthony Martial, he runs past you. You stand up against Rashford, he runs past you. You stand up against Greenwood, he runs past you. My worry is that when these players get the ball out wide, who's in the box? Who's on the 6-yard line waiting for that ball to come across and for them to tap it in? Because we haven't got so to speak, a natural number 9. Martial's still making that role his own. So you could pick any of that front three and Bruno Fernandes to be honest. But again, also mentioned on our show the other day, Paul Pogba. He needs to find some consistency, and he's going to be playing a bit deeper if Van der Beek does start in that midfield with him. So if Paul Pogba can start getting hold of that ball and dictating the play and spread the ball about, you know, there's going to be all sorts of problems for teams next season, and that's not just you guys. So yeah.
Yeah. In terms of, you mentioned the defense, but I feel like our defense we're running out of depth there because we've had so many injuries. Gary Cahill's out, and then James Tompkins is out. Mamadou Sakho, who was on a bench in the Bournemouth game, in a cup game against them, and then we have Scott Dan and Cheikhou Kouyaté. And you look at them players on paper, Cheikhou Kouyaté is not outright centre back, and they haven't played as much. But I'll tell you one thing against Southampton. One thing that they did do right is the fact that they handled the defense, they controlled the defense, which was very surprising. So it'll be interesting to see that if United don't have a number 9 that can finish the ball, they've controlled the box. So I think you'll put crosses into the box, but that final finish could be the turning point for the game. And it brings me to another question: where do you think this game is going to be won and lost? Because I feel like our midfield is probably our weakest position so far, because we've started James McCarthy, and James McCarthy are not the most exciting players, I'll be honest with you. Even Palace fans agree with that. So if you start Pogba, I feel like you guys could dominate there. But where do you think you could win the game?
I mean, it's I might sound weird saying this, but it's all right. And I think you'll probably agree. It's all right dominating a game, so keeping hold of that ball, but it's what you do with it. So I don't care if Pogba and Fernandes and whoever else starts there, whether it's McTominay or Van der Beek or Matic, whoever starts there, see a lot of the ball. It's what we do with that ball and how we transition. And to be honest, coming up against a Hodgson Palace side, you know that you're not going to be wanting the ball for 90 minutes of the game. Yeah, you're going to want to sit back and you're going to say, United, come and break us down. And that's what United haven't been great at. We haven't been great at breaking teams down, especially at home. And I mean, I know there's no crowd there, but it's still mightily difficult. I think if you rewind, I don't know if you saw it, but when we play Southampton at home, you know, I think just they were well organised. They don't particularly have a massive threat. I'd say, actually, I'm a bit more worried about Zaha and you knew that we've just spoken about. And, you know, Ayew can score a goal when he wants to, than I was about Obafemi and, you know, and some of those Southampton players who they've got at the top of the pitch. So I think any team on their day has a chance against United if we're not on it. I think we've got to start fast and we've got to find the gaps. I think as soon as we find the gaps and the most important thing for me is Anthony Martial needs the ball into feet. If Anthony Martial can get the ball into feet, he's going to have runners and he's going to have options, and he doesn't get it wrong. He rarely gets it wrong when he's got the ball at his feet. So for me, it's about not always pushing the play wide. It's about not trying to keep the ball close within the midfield. It's about getting the ball to Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood's feet as quickly as we can so that we can transition into attack. Because I think that's where we'll hit you. And I don't even think it would be out wide either. I think we've got in, and we saw it in the home game, and we saw it as well again last season. If we've got the ball 25 yards out in the centre of the pitch, you just need to find that through ball. You need to find the ball over the top, or you need to have a go from range, because that's where you can get at Crystal Palace. You just need to do something quick, make a quick decision and go with it. Other than that, Roy Hodgson, he sets up teams well. He can make you compact. The problem is you guys transitioning into attack that he doesn't get right 90% of the time. But when you've got players like Zaha, he can make a moment of magic again, like that. So
that's the thing, though. I think against the Southampton game, and so far what we've seen in pre-season, that has changed, because Wilfred Zaha's position last season, he was asked so much to go back and defend. Where
you were saying, where's he playing now then? Because you were saying that he's changed up his position. So this is, I didn't watch the game in full. I've just watched some highlights. So all I've seen really is a goal, a couple of Southampton chances, and I think you guys had a chance as well towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen it.
So what happened is that Wilfred Zaha now, he's more like a striker, but then he drifts out wide as well to the left-hand side. He has a bit more freedom. He's not in a compact position where he can't go and be flexible, because what teams were doing last season was that they saw Wilfred Zaha on the left-hand side, so they were just saying, all right, we're going to send 2-3 players. Yeah, keep him out there. But now, it's not only that, but then there's likes of Jeffrey Schlupp and then Tyreek Mitchell making overlapping runs. So ideally, now you've got 3 players next to Wilfred Zaha, so then opposition teams, they look at it and they're saying, all right, we've got 3 players to focus on. We can't just focus on Wilfred Zaha. So that's changed. And we've been a threat on the counter-attack so far. So are you guys, do you think you'll be able to handle that if you have 3 or 4 Palace players going at you in the counter-attack, especially, it'll happen instantly?
I mean, for me, hearing that, if as long as he's in that left forward position, I'm happy, because how good Wan-Bissaka is, and I also think Lindelof is underrated when it comes to playing against fast players. He can hold them up, and he is also good. He times his challenge right, and he has got a little turn of pace. However, if it gets to it and Zaha is floating on that right-hand side and coming inside at Maguire and looking at Luke Shaw as a weakness, that's where Palace can get at us, because that's where a number of times last season we've struggled. It's when you've got a clever, fast player who has a little bit of trickery and can cause a moment of magic, gets in behind Luke Shaw. So if you can get in behind Luke Shaw and you can find the gaps there, and you're one-on-one against Maguire, again, there's tons of opportunity there for Palace. And if you've got the players there, again, it comes down to the fact that I just said a minute ago, if you can get in that position, who's in the box, who's waiting for it, who's alive, who's going to be joining Zaha or whoever's got that ball in attack at that point to finish it off. So I think that, for me, would be my main concern, and that's where I think maybe you could jump in and create some opportunities there. It's in between Shaw and Maguire. If you can get there while Shaw's attacking, there's plenty of opportunities. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he hasn't done it before, but maybe he looks at switching Zaha sides to play that role better against Maguire.
Sorry to cut you off, but I think, as far as I can remember, when we faced you last season at your ground, I think Roy Hodgson changed it about. He put Zaha on the right-hand side.
I think he did.
As far as I can remember that
right, yeah,
exactly, because he didn't want Zaha to go against Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, because Schlupp was on the left-hand side, and Ayew was up top, and that's what was confused when the ball went in the back of the net, and when Schlupp won that header, everyone was just a little bit like, obviously we thought Schlupp was being played out there to be a bit more defensively because he has history at left back, right? But then when he won that header and he actually turned that into an assist, because also, if I remember right, Zaha was quite quiet at Old Trafford. But then again, I also think, there's a lot of onus on Zaha, and he does a lot off the ball, and he also, doesn't have to have a 10 out of 10 every game. No footballer has a 10 out of 10 every game. So it's easy for people to spot that with him, because you expect so much naturally because of how much is mentioned. But potentially if you went, because let's face it, you're probably going to play 3 midfielders who can do a defensive job. You probably won't play a number 10. I'll be surprised if he goes 4-2-3-1 or he plays an attacking midfielder. He's going to have to try and find a way to balance that right. So, who's he got down the wings? Who does he play down the wings to make sure that there's some defensive cover there as well for the fullbacks? How does he approach it attackingly? Who plays up top? I mean, it's going to be quite interesting from your point of view, because you do have options.
Yeah, so we do.
You'll know from that lineup, though, in terms of what he's going to do, which I think you will know whether it's going to be a tough slug for 90 minutes, or actually you're going to come and try and take 3 points at Old Trafford, which is, what every fan wants to sort of see, don't you, if you're a rival?
Exactly. So finally, I guess lineup prediction might be a bit hard because it's your first game of the season and you don't have a fully fit squad. But if you could give me a lineup prediction and also
Yeah.
your score prediction for the game as well before we end it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will start with De Gea over Henderson. So I'm going to go De Gea in goal. I'm going to go for Crystal Palace club legend Aaron Wan-Bissaka at right back. Lindelof and Maguire at centre back. He'll then go probably Luke Shaw left back. And I think we will see Van der Beek play. And I think one of the reasons why Van der Beek's been signed is so that we drop that holding midfielder, push Pogba a little bit deeper so that Van der Beek can occupy the spaces so we can be a little bit more attacking and a bit more efficient in breaking teams down, like yourselves at Old Trafford when teams come and sit in and want to play on the counter and are just there to nick a goal and try and nick the 3 points. That's no disrespect to you guys. I just think that when you're coming to Old Trafford and you're playing against that attack, it's easier to sit back than it is to go toe for toe. So I think we'll see Van der Beek and Pogba in the midfield. We'll see Greenwood, Martial, Rashford up top with Bruno just behind, occupying that 10 role. So I think it's more or less going to be just Van der Beek in for Matic. Was it Matic who started at Selhurst Park? I think it was. So yeah, it's really just the new lad coming in and hopefully settling in straight away. But again, he is a player you've got to watch out for because he is very, very different. He is naturally a number 10, and the way he gets in the spaces between the midfield and defence is going to cause nightmares with Bruno Fernandes running about everywhere. So yeah, I expect to see Van der Beek, and this isn't what you're going to want to hear, but I do worry because we're not 100% fit. We've got to hit the ground running though, and the onus is going to be on us to do that. Anything less than a win is United fans are just going to be in a vile mood after the game. The pressure is on, and it really is. So I think I'm going to go 3-1 to United. I expect it to be a fast start. And actually, I can see us going in quite comfortable, but I do expect Palace to score because I do think that you've got some threat out there. And again, I think you're then going to have options off the bench as well to nick one. So, yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 to United.
Yeah, you mentioned Aaron Wan-Bissaka being a legend, a Palace legend, but Maguire is technically a Palace legend as well because every time we play against him, whether it's at Leicester or United, it seems like we always get good results. So hopefully Palace can continue targeting.
Is that what you're holding on for? Is that what you're holding on for this weekend?
Yeah, Palace fans, we love it. We don't know what it is, but at Leicester, we beat them 5-0 with Maguire in defence. Last season, we beat you guys with Maguire in defence once again. You know, Jordan and I just slides past him. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, just to see how Harry Maguire does in this game.
But it wasn't his. I actually remember that. Everyone was blaming him for not covering Lindelof, but I don't know what he was meant to do in that situation. At the end of the day, Sturt won a header that he should never have won. I think actually it was Wan-Bissaka who was at fault. He should have been covering behind Lindelof because he came out. Maguire had his own man. I think he was watching Wilfred Zaha, who he knew he weren't going to beat on pace. So he had to get 2, 3, 4 yards, in front of. I don't think there was much Harry Maguire could have done about that first goal, to be honest. But I think fans, because of his price tag and because of who he is England's number one defender at the end of the day when it comes to that team. I just think there's a lot of onus on him and a lot of pressure. I think he's a very, very good defender. And I think you find the right partners go next to him, you can create a world-class partnership there. There's no doubt about it. Whether he's a world-class defender or not, I think is absolutely beyond the point. He's clearly got qualities there, one of which is leadership that he's brought into United, and it's made a massive difference. We had the third best defensive record in Europe last season, and I think that speaks volume that Maguire and Wan-Bissaka are the two players who have come into that defence and how much it's improved. So so I had to defend my mate Harry there.
All right, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on the weekend.
What are you going for a score?
My prediction for the game is, you put me on a spot here. I think I'm going for a draw again because I predicted a draw against Southampton. So 1-1, I'm just going to go 1-1 because Southampton game, no one predicted for a Palace win. Even Palace fans weren't really optimistic about the game. So if we go for 1-1 once again, maybe that jinx or whatever it is could work in our favour and we could potentially get a result out of it. So yeah, I'm going 1-1.
What about you this season though? What's a good season?
This season, this might sound controversial to other Palace fans, but I've given up on Hodgson's going to take us to the next level, and I just want us to stay up. So that's a good season for us. I just don't want to get relegated. And at the end of this season, hopefully he can move on, we can move on and get a younger, fresher manager with different ideas and kick on. So yeah. But anyways, yeah, thank you for joining me, Ben. Make sure to check out the All for United channel, United fan channel, where I'll be on that as well, discussing the game. So yeah, until next time, up the Palace.